I'm about to show you a wild Necromancer build for Season 3, Crazy Poison Skeleton Maniacs. I'll walk you through my original Season 2 build guide video and reveal the huge Season 3 changes as we go along. Will this build be as strong as it was in Season 2? You're about to find out. Ever started a build just messing around with the mechanic and it turned out to melt the endgame? Well, that's what happened here. I tried out a new unique item specifically designed for a Summon Skeleton Rogue build, and what started out as a quirky test run turned into a corruption-melting, poison-leeching monster. Yes, that's a lot of poison stacks, and yes, that's inflicted by our minions. All of the gameplay in this video is with 528 corruption, but can be pushed much higher if you feel like it. Stick around because I'll show you every single piece of the puzzle, and trust me, this isn't your grandma's minion build. Now today, let's live on the edge and start off with some Aberrant footage. As you can see, our minions can face tank basically all of his attacks and take most of the heat. So what we need to do is to be mobile and spawn zombies that explode on him, giving us ward in the process. We have quite a lot of poison and armor shred stacks on him at any given time, as well as marking him for death, giving him 25% reduction to all resistances. And the best thing about this is that our skeleton rogues are nearly immortal, as they have an insane health leech. Now you'll see here that the kill threshold of 16% really helps, as he dies as soon as he reaches 16% health. More on that later. Here's Abomination on 528 corruption, melting away by the swords of our saucy little skeleton rogues. And just when you think it's over, the Harbinger enters the chat. Spoiler, it doesn't go well for him either. As you can see, our character can also take a punch, even though we usually don't need to take that many in a row, as our minions take most of the aggro. And just as with Aberrant on 16% health, this fella is erased. So if you've ever dreamed of watching bosses disappear while you sip your coffee, this build might just be for you. And if you're already convinced by now, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and if you're not, buckle up for the continuation as we delve into more of its mechanics and setup. Let's start with the core of it all, Summon Skeleton. And here's the twist already, we don't want all the skeletons, we only want the rogues, just the stabby, fast attacking ones. These guys apply poison faster than YouTubers like me rush to say like and subscribe, and they heal so quickly you basically never see their health bar move. We spec into the notes that add the rogues and remove the others. Warriors, archers, thank you for your service, but we're going in another direction. We do this because the rogues are the only ones who benefit from the important unique item we're building with. Don't worry, we'll get to the madness soon. Let's pause here for a moment. I want to delve into an important new Necro passive node that synergizes just perfectly with this build. The brand new node Invigorated Death has a threshold bonus that gives our minions all of the flat added minion melee physical damage as physical throwing damage. And even though this is mainly a poison damage build, our skeleton rogues do inflict a lot of damage with hits as well, so this is a great boost for us. Let's resume the original build guide. We don't want enemies to touch us, ever, so we bring in a single bone golem. We spec into the nodes that buff the golem more when we only have one of them, and increase its size and threat generation. This guy becomes a walking wall that holds enemy attention while the rogues do their dirty work behind the scenes. The tankiness of the golem is especially important at high corruption and hardcore, where staying alive is 90% of the game. Now let's boost our minions into overdrive with Dreadshake. We grab Egoism, where the targeted minion always crits, and Blind Fury, giving 40% increased attack speed. The downside to Blind Fury doesn't matter. If you always crit, reduced crit chance means nothing. Let's pause it again. As of Season 3, our golem will not always critically strike. This is because the Egoism node of Dreadshade does not give guaranteed critical strikes. Instead, we now gain 10% base crit chance and 20% crit multiplier. The crit multiplier boosts the crit damage more than the Season 2 node did, so that's a plus at least, even though we lose the guaranteed crit. This doesn't have a major impact on this build, as the golem is not our primary source of damage. It's first and foremost a tank to absorb aggro and damage. But we're not done. The real juice comes from Vile Ghast, which converts Dreadshade's necrotic damage buffs into poison and gives 5% increased poison chance per added necrotic damage from the skill tree. This node is a massive poison boost for all our minions. Let's crank it up even further. We go for Aura of Decay. The great thing about this skill is that it can buff our minions' poison damage greatly through the Infectious Bones node, and their chance to poison on hit with a Plague Bearers node. Further, it reduces the enemy's poison resistance by 15% through the Vulnerability node, before we get to the icing on the cake, Fume Weaver. This node gives the enemies minus 1% poison resistance per intelligence, and since we spec heavily into our intelligence and end up at 100, this alone gives 100% increased poison resistance for our enemies. Yeah, 100%. That's basically deleting their health bar before they even play the game. Let's pause it for a second. First, I want to mention that from Season 3 we'll take much less damage from Aura of Decay, or from any source of poison, when Aura of Decay is active. This is a great buff for this build. And when we're this deep into the damage mechanics, I think this is a perfect time to look at some of the core changes to the damage setup for this build in Season 3. First of all, we have a very good reason to stack Vitality this time. Apart from it giving us 6 health, 1 necrotic resistance and 1 poison resistance per point, we also get 1% more multiplicative damage over time per Vitality with the threshold bonus on the new node Forbidden Teachings. This is a great bonus for this build, as our skeleton rogues will get more damage per point we spec into Vitality. This is also why we spec into a lot of Vitality in the passive tree for Season 3, and you're welcome to stack as much as you can on your gear as well. I should also point out that minion power now scales much higher per level in Season 3, which means minions deal more baseline damage compared to Season 2. Volatile Zombie isn't just flavor, it's actually vital to the build. Why? Each explosion gives ward with a vital ward node. Their explosion has a good chance to poison on hit with the Army of Rot node. They do more damage to bosses and rares with the Ravenous node. And, most importantly, they have a 16% kill threshold with the Pull of the Grave node. This means that any enemy under 16% health, boom, gone. It's perfect for endgame bosses. And since the zombies constantly explode, they also gives us skeleton vanguards via the Dark Retribution passive node, giving a chance to summon these little fellas whenever a minion dies. We usually have our maximum limit of 3 at any given time, and these little rascals are good for additional damage and taking aggro from enemies. We also have a 10% chance to mark a nearby enemy for death whenever one of our zombies or other minions die. This is quite effective for clearing and highly effective for bosses, as they will be constantly marked, reducing all of their resistances by 25%. Let's stop it for a moment. For Season 3, the passive node that enabled us to mark a nearby enemy for death when our zombies died is now removed from the Necromancer passive tree. This means that we don't get this benefit anymore. But there is another way we can mark enemies for death with this build. We can go all the way up to the upper right corner in the zombie tree to get this node, where the zombies mark enemies for death when they hit them with the explosion. This is even better than the passive node we had for Season 2, but it does increase the mana cost drastically, which means that we cannot use the skill that often. This would in turn give us less ward generation with the vital ward node. However, I think this is a fine trade-off, since we make up for this by speccing into the new node in the Necromancer passive tree, giving us 10 ward per second per active minion. Let's resume the original build guide. Now let's look at the item that ties all of this together, the Lethal Concentration Spear. This spear gives us a good amount of minion damage as well as plus 3 levels to our Summon Skeleton skill now that it has a throwing tag on it. But the real value lies in 2 other affixes. The first one being that the spear applies our own character's increased poison damage at between 150 to 210% effectiveness. For our spear, we've managed to get a roll of 187% effectiveness, which means that all our own increased poison damage is multiplied by this for our skeleton rogues. And the implicit stat of the spear alone gives us 102% increased poison damage, which will amount to 293% increased poison damage for our skeleton rogues just from this particular stat. Further, it also makes them leech 8% of the poison damage they do as health. Let me repeat that. Your rogues are healing for 8% of every dot tick they apply, so yeah, they don't ever die really. They also get additional health leech through the Ribbons of Blood unique ring that we use, and also get the buff of never taking critical hits as well as added melee physical damage. Now, a quick thing to mention here is that the melee physical damage from this ring is converted to physical throwing damage for our rogues with the threshold bonus of the Invigorated Death passive node that we looked at earlier. This is the only unique item in the build that can't drop randomly or be forced with the Rune of Ascents, as this ring has a 50% chance to drop when defeating the Abomination boss only. With all the health leech our skeleton rogues get, we build them into complete powerhouses, and the Hollow Finger unique ring let us have an additional skeleton in our troop as well. For single targets, we reach hundreds of poison stacks, which amount to crazy damage. In addition to this, our minions have good armor shred primarily through the points invested in the Necromancer passive node Aegis Fall. And since our minions do a lot of physical damage as well with their hits, the armor shred is very effective for doing even more damage. Just a quick comment here. In Season 3, Aegis Fall also has a nice threshold bonus with Skeleton Vanguard summon chance on kill, with added melee physical damage. That's cool. Now, before we go further, just a heads up that I got other Season 3 Necro build guide videos on the way, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button to not miss out. Want to take it a step further? You can support me by hitting the join button or checking out my Patreon link in the description. I really appreciate all your support. So, where do we go in terms of primordial items? There are several primordial uniques targeting minions, but none of them really clicks with this build in my opinion. Other candidates are obviously a tier 8 intelligence or vitality affix, but I think there might be a better one. You see, I've gone for the tier 8 plus 2 maximum skeletons and insane increased skeleton damage affix. I cannot see that anything will be better than this, as it's just perfect for this build in in my opinion. I think damage-wise, Vitality might come in at a close second, since it will give us a lot more multiplicative damage due to the threshold bonus from the Necromancer passive tree. But I've landed on this affix instead. This is gonna be wild. Like what you see, make sure to click the thumbs up like button. Let's resume the original build guide. This is a hybrid ward and health build. We have a decent combined idle pool of around 5000, and when we start using Summon Vault as zombie, the ward goes much higher due to the ward buffs we have specced into when they explode. Just a quick comment on this. Since we stack Vitality this time, we'll have more health than we had in Season 2. This is also boosted by more flat health being available in the Necro passive tree as well. We will also gain more ward with the new Necro passive node giving us 10 ward per second per active minion. This is an insane boost to our survivability. So all in all, I think the defensive setup looks better than in Season 2. Our armor is also something I'm happy with, given that the Necromancer doesn't really have access to much armor or ways of increasing it naturally. The resistances are also decent, and I've got no major concerns with them. You could obviously cap all of them if you shuffle around some stats on your gear. Our 61% increased movement speed is good, especially considering the fact that the Necromancer doesn't have access to any sources of movement speed or haste in the passive trees. Now the final thing worth mentioning is our possibly biggest defense mechanism of them all, our Golem. We go for one Golem with as much size and threat generation as possible, meaning it takes more or less all of the aggro from our enemies. This way we can stand behind the scenes doing our thing and being safe for most of the time. Especially for hardcore and high corruption, this is invaluable. As for leveling, most of the skills for the final build are available from early on. Start by speccing into Summon Skeleton, then Summon Bone Golem. Then go for Summon Bolt as Zombie, then Dreadshade, and finally Aura of Decay. The good thing about this is that you don't need Dreadshade or Aura of Decay for this build to be a powerhouse during the campaign and early endgame, so unlocking Dreadshade and Aura of Decay at a late stage is of no consequence. Now, to sum up, I think this build looks even stronger than it was in Season 2, both in terms of damage and defense. Being able to stack Vitality for both defense and offense, more flat health available in the Necro passive tree, and the ward per second per active minion is a testament to this. But obviously, the final cherry on top is the Primordial affix of the body armor, giving +2 maximum skeletons and a lot of increased skeleton damage. That's awesome. Now, just a reminder, I got plenty more Season 3 Necromancer build guide videos coming your way before the new season drops, so don't forget to subscribe to stay updated. And if you're hungry for more build guides right now, go ahead and click on the video card showing on your screen.